It's easy to forget that Lightroom's full and formal name is Adobe Photoshop Lightroom. And the reason I'm bringing that up here is to reiterate this idea that Lightroom and Photoshop work and communicate really well together. In fact, it's one of the reasons why Lightroom has become so popular, because you can have this really tight and seamless workflow from Lightroom to Photoshop and back again. Well, let's take a look at how we can begin to set things up in order to have this kind of a workflow. Well, the first thing that we need to do is to navigate to our preferences. On a Mac, you can navigate to the Lightroom pull-down menu. On a PC, you can find these same preferences inside of the Edit pull-down menu, and then go ahead and click on the option for Preferences. In this preference dialog, we need to go ahead and choose External Editing. The first thing you'll notice here is we have a few options. The first options that we can dial in have to do with the way that we'll edit our photographs in Photoshop most frequently. Then we can also define an additional external editor, and we can also change the file name. And here you can see we have a few different options, the same options we've seen in other places. All right, well, let's talk about the first set of external editing options. Now, these options are the ones that we're going to want to dial in order to take advantage of the strength of Lightroom. In other words, we want a really large file, really large color space, a lot of bit depth, so that our images will look their absolute best, so that we won't get banding or have any problems with the photographs. Well, what do we need to do then? In that case, we need a file format. TIFF is stronger than PSD. Color space, ProPhoto in the current context is the best, so we want that color space. Bit depth, well, we want 16 versus 8. Again, we have more information to work with, and then resolution we'll leave as is and compression as is. All right, well, now that we've defined this setting, which is our go-to setting, most frequently we'll work on our files in this context, what about this additional external editor? Well, the way that I typically use this is I define the application as Photoshop. So I'll go ahead and click Choose. I'm going to scroll down to Photoshop, and you can choose the most recent version of Photoshop you have, and then click Choose. All right, it says, hey, you've already used this once. That's fine. I'll go ahead and use it anyway. Now, that's the application I'm going to be working with. What about my file format? Well, TIFF is a really strong file format. I'll leave that as is, but for my color space, I know that in certain situations, let's say, I want to go to this sRGB color space because I want smaller files, and these files, let's say, they're eventually going to go online or on my website or something like that. So I'll choose this small little color space. Bit depth, 8 bits per channel. Resolution, I'm going to go to 72. All right, well, I've defined these two settings. How then can we start to take advantage of these preferences? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at how we can do that in the next movie.